Unit 2 of first PUC English course book is a poem by William Blake, and the title of this poem is The Schoolboy. Now let's see what we are going to study in this particular poem. So in this poem, on this session, especially we'll be discussing about a poem by William Blake, which deals with the theme of child's freedom in childhood and what happens to him if he is denied of the freedom. The poem also gives the picture of the different sides of formal schooling as far as a child is concerned. So now let's see what the poem is all about. Now before going to the poem and probably discussing about the background of this poem, let us discuss something about the poet William Blake. He was a very renowned poet who lived between 1757 and 1827, and he was a poet and a painter. Was born in Sohio, son of a hosier, and he had a little formal education, but was apprenticed to James Basire, an eminent engraver, and then sent to the Royal Academy for higher education. His finest works as an artist is a series, Inventions to the Book of Job, and he was both a painter and a poet. His collection of poetry include poetical sketches which he wrote in the year 1783, Song of Innocence which he wrote in the year 1789, Marriages of Heaven and Hell written in 1790, and Songs of Experience which he wrote in the year 1794. The Schoolboy is a lyric from the Songs of Experience. Now this is a lyric. What is the meaning of a lyric? Lyric is a small poem which is generally having a content or a theme in itself, or deals with a particular theme, and which can also be sung without memorizing it. That's the meaning of the word lyric. It's a small lyrical poem, a light poem. That's the meaning. Now, the background of this particular poem. There are two different schools of thought as far as schooling is concerned. The first one propagates that the child should be sent to school at a very young age and made to learn all subjects through an academic curriculum and teach them tough discipline and help them to imbibe knowledge. So this is the first school of thought, that the children should be sent to school, especially when the child is very small or young. Send him to school and make him to learn the subjects which he needs to have knowledge of when he grows up to take a different profession in the world. So that even in India we follow this system of formal schooling even from time immemorial. So people of India believed that they required formal schooling, and there were Gurukula systems, and then there were home schools, and then later we see the formal schooling came into existence. So people believe that a child needs to be taught a particular curriculum, and that's how a child can imbibe knowledge. So the second school of thought regarding formal education regarding child's education propagates the idea that children must be free to enjoy their childhood. They should be let to enjoy the life close to nature. This school of thought also advocates that if children are not allowed to be free, they will not be able to face the realities of life. The poet William Blake seems to be belonging to the second school of thought, or seems to uphold the second school of thought, where he says that the children should not be sent to a formal schooling because school atmosphere is quite scary or quite frightening for the child, and hence he cannot grow up with all his talents, because time and again he undergoes fear and total amazement and total shock in the school. So he says a child should be given the freedom to live a life close to nature, and also he should have freedom to enjoy life when he is a child. Now let's go to the poem. So this poem has several stanzas. As I said, this poem is a lyric. Hence, you have all the details in a very simple manner. The details are put forward. And the first stanza, the child is expressing his feelings, what he wants to do early in the morning. He does not want to go to school early in the morning, but he wants to get up late. He wants to listen to the music that is around him in the nature. He wants to listen to the music of the birds. He wants to listen to the music that comes out when men start their work. And he wants to get up late, enjoying his childhood and enjoying the morning sleep. So, but thought of school, makes his, takes all his joy away. First stanza starts with the boy's feelings, that what he wants to do early in the morning. So that's why we have this particular stanza which gives the boy's feelings. I in this particular stanza refer to the boy, by the way. Now let's go to the poem. I love to rise in a summer morn when the birds sing on every tree. The distant huntsman winds his horn, and the skylark sings with me. Oh, what a sweet company. The child is telling, I is the speaker, the child of this particular poem, says that I love to rise in the summer morn. Morn is a short form of morning. When the birds sing on every tree. When do the birds sing on every tree? When it is already daybreak, when it is already daytime. If it is early in the morning, in the dawn, maybe the birds may not sing on every tree. If it is still dark in the morning, where many city children get up, get ready, and they catch the school bus early in the morning, reach the school by 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and almost in a sleep, they attend their first few hours of class, then they come back home by afternoon. So this is the, this is the manner in which the children live their life in the cities. But this particular boy says, I would like to get up in the morning when birds sing on every tree. That means when it is already daytime. The distant huntsman winds his horn, and all the men of the village, there are hunters, and some of them have taken up hunting as their profession. There are professional hunters who start their day by signaling each others, by blowing the horn and calling each others, calling one another to start their work. So that's why he says, distant huntsman winds his horn. All the hunters get together, and they are now supposed to be starting their work, and they are supposed to be starting their journey towards a jungle or towards a forest or to the hills nearby for hunting. So they give signal each others by blowing horn, and he says, I want to listen to the music of that horn which the huntsmen blow. And the skylark sings with me. And then he says, the third type of music that the boy is attracted to is the song of the skylark. Skylark is supposed to be a bird which is supposed to be making a music which almost sounds like a song while singing. Even bird scientists say that probably it is the way in which its wings are moved. There may be a sound coming up or coming out which sounds like a music or like a song. But however, skylark is the only bird which seems to be singing while at flight. So he says, above my house, when the skylark flies, he makes a musical song, and I am going to be attracted towards that, and I want to get up when it is fully daybreak and fully daytime, and music all around. Oh, what a sweet company. What a good company. What a sweet company means what a fine, what a fantastic company, what a good company is that. The company of the skylark songs, and company of the horns that are blown by the hunters, and the company of the songs of the birds from every tree. But then he says, this is what he looks out for. This is what he expects for. But then he's talking about his school. He says, but to go to school on a summer morn, oh, it drives all joy away. But to go to school, but thinking of going to school on a summer morning, morn means morning, it drives all joy away. Drive away. What is the meaning of driving away? Literally chase away, take away by force, or send away by force. Suppose a dog enters your compound, what do? You never go near the dog and say, excuse me dog, kindly get out of the compound, this does not belong to you. Don't you have the mannerism that you should not enter into a stranger's or neighbor's compound? Do you? No. You pick a stone, you pick a stick, and you just literally chase away. You literally drive away the dog. You know, suppose a bird comes in, a hen or a duck or another bird, if that comes inside the compound, what we do? We shoo them away. We just scare them away and send them away. Here he says, drives away all joy. That means literally take away by force. Going to some mammon takes away all joy. Why? There are several reasons. First reason, the boy needs to sit under a cruel eye outworn. He has to sit the whole day under the cruel eye. That means under the vigilance, under the look of cruel eye. That means a cruel look of the teacher. Outworn means there ready watching. The teacher will be watching that the boy does not play any mischief. The boy does not get distracted. The boy does not lose his concentration, and hence the teacher will sit there and look at the boy with cruel eyes. And the boy feels quite suffocating, scared. Under a cruel eye outworn, the little ones spend the day in sighing and dismay. And how do the little ones, that means the children, spend the day in sighing? Sighing means in crying, in regret, and in dismay. Dismay means great fear. Then the boy says, this is the third reason, by the way. Oh, what a regretful place it is. What a sad place it is. What a miserable place and state it is for the child. Then at times I drooping sit. You know, sometimes how do I sit? I drooping sit. Droop means bend, hiding. Generally the meaning means, droop means bending both the shoulders. You see, you know, sometimes people, as when they grow old, their shoulders bend and they get a drooping shoulder like this. So that's exactly what he says. I drooping sit. Now here why does a boy sit with a drooping shoulder? Not because the boy has grown old, just because he wants to avoid the cruel look of the teacher. So he is hiding, probably behind another student, another boy who is sitting in front of him. He is hiding, and hence he droops his shoulders. And spend many an anxious hour. And I spend many an anxious hour means many hours in anxiety, in worry, in fear. And many hours because the school has several hours, 7 to 8 hours. Teaching hours. And I sit all those several hours in anxiety, in fear. Nor in my book can I take delight. Or if at all I think that I should take interest in the book, I cannot find interest or happiness. Delight means happiness. Nor in my book can I take delight. That means I cannot take happiness or take delight. I cannot find happiness in my books because they are not interesting. They are boring books. They are hardcore subjects which I don't understand. They do not enter into my small little brains. They are they are topics which go above my head. Nor sit in the learning bower, worn through with the dreary shower. I can't sit in the learning bower. Learning bower means in the classroom, which is suffocating, which is scary. Worn through, that means tired through with many dreary showers. Dreary shower means a difficult process of the lectures that I have to listen to, or probably the way that tough subjects are taught to me. I can't find interest because I have to sit tiringly through those classes. So this is what he says in first 3 stanzas, and probably we'll see the summary of these stanzas before we go to the next 3 stanzas. So what we have just discussed, let's recall once again in a summary form, then we'll go to the next stanzas of the poem so that it will be easy for us to understand. The poet William Blake brings out the feelings of the little schoolboy through this poem. he seems to be propagating the second school of thought about child's education, which we have learnt in the background of the poem. The schoolboy probably has his house in a village where he has an opportunity to have an interaction with the flora and fauna of the area. That means animals and birds of the, animals and plants of the area. The schoolboy wants to rise up in a bright summer morning only when the birds sing on every tree, which means a little late in the morning. He also loves chirping of the birds. He wants to get up only when the huntsmen of his place are ready for the day's work, when they give signals to each other through blowing of horns. The schoolboy also loves to get up only when the skylark sings with him. I told you already, skylark is a bird which seems to be singing while at flight. And all these different types of music which the boy hears in the morning makes him happy, and he really wants to enjoy them on a bright morning and wants to grow in such a sweet company. But going to school in a bright summer morning makes the boy very sad. It takes all his joy away. He does not like his school because all day long he needs to be sitting under the vigilance of the strict authoritarian teacher, and he gets scared under her cruel observant eyes. The poet says that it is not only this boy, but all the children feel sad and are frightened when they are constantly observed by the strict authoritarian teacher. They sit in the school the whole day in fear and in sorrow, sighing all the times. At times the schoolboy sits discouraged, bending his shoulders. Stooping means, stoop-shouldered or drooping shoulders means bending his shoulders and hiding himself from the eyes of the teacher. He sits in the same position several hours of the day, listening to tough lessons. The schoolboy cannot be happy with the teaching of the books because he spends his time in great anxiety. The poet metaphorically refers to the school as learning bower, indicating that it was supposed to be a pleasant place for the children. Now it has become like a bower. Bower means something which is pronounced equal to tower, but it is a difficult place. The school boy is tired, sitting the whole day without any freedom and also in fear and dismay. Hence, he cannot participate in the load of activities of learning syllabus. The poet refers to the activities of the school as dreary shower, which is again to refer to the tiresome activities conducted in the school. So, this is how we have seen the first part of the poem with 3 stanzas discussed, the feelings of the little schoolboy and how he feels in the school. And the whole poem is a cry against formal schooling. It seems that William Blake is against the way how the schooling is done for little children. Now the 4th stanza of the poem, The Schoolboy, tells us about the poet's feeling about the schooling. You see, and he's comparing the child to various things, and also shows that how the growth of the child is according to him, and what things need to be added into a child's life, unlike the things which are supposed to be given to a child when he is in the school. 4th stanza, let us see. How can the bird that is born for joy sit in a cage and sing? How can a child when fears annoy but droop his tender wings and forget his youthful spring? Now the poet is comparing, William Blake is comparing the child to a bird. How can the bird, what is bird born for? Flying. And what is a bird symbolic of, or flight of a bird symbolic of? Freedom. He says, how can a bird that is born for joy, for enjoying, sit in a cage and sing? you know, whenever a bird is put inside a cage, we understand that the bird loses its freedom. And also, bird in a cage is metaphoric or symbolic of a person who has lost his natural freedom and natural, exhibiting of his natural talents. We say that a bird is good and he enjoys his freedom, or bird enjoys its freedom when the bird is allowed to fly free in the open and also sing as he likes. That's why he says, how can a bird sit in a cage? Here cage is referred to school, bird is referred to child. School and sing. How can he be happy in the school? That is the whole meaning in these two lines. How can a child, when fears annoy means when fears hurt him, but droop his tender wing, droop means bend his tender wings and forget his youthful spring. How can a boy, a little child, forget his youthful spring? Spring means enthusiasm. A child is full of enthusiasm. He wants to run around. He wants to play. He wants to express his freedom by looking here and there. He wants to explore the entire world around him. But how can you put that child under the strict vigilance of a teacher, where the child feels as if he is in a cage? How can the child enjoy his life when fears annoy him? Annoy means hurt him. That's why the poet is now requesting the parents of the child not to make the child to undergo this formal schooling, which is rigid according to the poet, which has got a very negative kind of an atmosphere for a child, which imposes things on the child. So he is requesting the parents of the child to give him the required freedom and not to force him the syllabus and the atmosphere of the school upon him. Let's see. Oh, father and mother, if buds are nipped and blossoms are blown away, and if the tender plants are stripped of their joy in the springing day, by sorrow and care's dismay. Oh, father and mother, he is requesting the parents of the child. He says, if buds are nipped, he compares a family or a child's growth to a tree. And he says, if a child is a plant, his natural abilities are like buds. If you nip those buds, if you cut those buds, how can you expect the child to give fruit or flowers when he grows up? If he is snubbed all the times, if he is suppressed all the times, his natural talents will also die away. That's why he says, and blossoms blown away. Blossoms here means natural talents, which the child would be able to grow if he is given the freedom to go around. And if the tender plants are stripped, plants need to have enough of leaves. They should be given the freedom to leave out or to grow twigs. They should have enough of freedom to grow as and how they want. But imagine if you keep pruning the tree, if you keep stripping the tree, strip means take away all the leaves and the buds out of the tree, of their joy in the springing day, by sorrow and scarce dismay. If you just make the child who is like a plant to undergo an experience like that of stripping the plant, like that of nipping the birds, by imposing fear and also sorrow on the child, how can you expect the child to grow in a natural way? So this stanza is very clear, where the poet is of the opinion that the schooling will destroy the natural talents in a child. I don't know whether we all agree with that, but one thing for sure, there is a school of thought which says that formal schooling is too much of a force on a child for his natural growth. Let's go ahead, move ahead and see what we have in the next stanza. He says, now this is little philosophical, this stanza. He says, how shall the summer arise in joy? Summer here means the tough times, the productive years which are supposed to be, arise in happiness, or the summer's fruit appear. Summer's fruit here means the talent that the child needs to be having for facing the world. Arise, appear, Or how shall we gather what griefs destroy? Or how can we collect back what is already destroyed by the grief, by sorrow? What is destroyed by the sorrow, we cannot just recollect them. We cannot just gather them back. What is lost forever. And bless the mellowing years. Mellowing means the old age. Mellowing years means the old age. How can you make the old age as happy and blessed when the blasts of winter appear? When the blast means when the greatest difficulties and challenges of the winter appear. Winter means, again, here the hardships, the tough days of the time appear. What does this stanza mean again? This stanza also means that when the child grows up, when he has to face the natural challenges of his youth, when he has to find the tough times and face them and overcome them, he will not be able to do them because he is already under so much of pressure when he is as a child and he has lost the ability to face them. Now let's go to the summary of this particular part of the poem. The schoolboy further poses some questions to the parents. This looks like Blake's questions to the parents about the upbringing of the children, especially with regard to the schooling. The schoolboy asks, how can a bird which is born for freedom sit in a cage and sing joyfully? A bird is supposed to be in the open, free and singing with the natural freedom. Likewise, how can a child sit with fear in the school, which gives him the experience like that of a cage? And how can he sit discouraged and smother the tender feelings of his childhood in the school? Now the cage refers to school and the bird refers to the child. How can a child forget the sweet feelings of his youthful days, which bubbles in his heart just like a spring? The poet then compares a child to a budding plant and asks the father and mother, how can a plant give beautiful flowers if the buds are nipped? The nip means cut, and blossoms are cut away when the plant is just growing. And if the tender branches are stripped and will affect the natural growth of the child or the plant. The children are like tender plants, and if their buds and leaves, that means natural faculties, are nipped, how can they have a natural growth? This is a question that he poses to the parents. Finally, he says, it may look strange for the people of the sophisticated societies where grooming of a child with formal schooling is considered to be one of the most essential things of the childhood. William Blake, on the other hand, considers formal schooling as the way of stripping and nipping the child of his growing days. According to him, the child is stripped of his abilities by sorrows and fears of the childhood, which he expresses especially in his school. According to the poet, the child cannot be happy in summer day, the bright years of his life, if he is made to undergo fear and sorrow in the childhood. The poet also feels that the child cannot be fruitful if he is burdened with sorrows and dismay. Dismay means fear. Once if the natural ability of the child is destroyed, he cannot stand when the difficult times of his life appear. It will be like the blasts of winter to his life. During the softening years of a person's life, many difficulties and challenges appear. In those years, he won't have confidence and courage if he is made to lose them in his childhood. The phrase mellowing years and winter's blast refer to the difficult challenges that the child faces in his childhood or in his life. So likewise, we have seen how poet William Blake brings out the child's experience in a school in a beautiful manner, yet with a different school of thought. And that's what we have seen in this particular poem, The Schoolboy.